So if there's anybody here that doesn't know me, I'm Don Lowe. This whole contraption that you see here is made by Trent Bosch. This system is not an inexpensive system, but it's a very effective system. So this is a piece of white ash, and this is more or less a classic hollow form, if you will. So I did this yesterday. So with a hollow form, you try to get a nice curve on the outside that you're going to follow on the inside of the system. So on the screen here is a camera that follows the tip of the tool. And to start out with, I'm just going to use a straight tool. But when I get to the curved tools, I'll actually draw a line on the screen that outlines the tool and the wall thickness that I want to maintain. And we'll get to that when we get there. But this allows you to kind of sort of see inside what you're doing. So again, we'll get to that in a bit. So, any questions before I get started?
What's a system like that cost you?
So, what you see here with these two curve tools, these it's 17 or 1800 bucks.
That's with the visual.
With the visual, with the screen.
So
And the steady rest?
The steady rest is not included.
So I looked up the pricing yesterday so you guys can compare. So afterwards, we're going to show my system, which is Lyle Jameson. So the Trent Bosch system without the visualizer, just the lasers, depending on what size tools you get, will range from $830 to $930. That's with 3 tools and a handle, the laser, stabilizer, all that. The Lyle Jameson system will be anywhere from $499 to $629. Depending on which setup you get. And I'll talk about the different setups that they have after, but that's just a rough idea of the pricing.
It's not cheap, but it works well. Let's do some hollowing. So I'm going to start off just with a straight tool, and I'll be working a little bit by feel and a little bit by experience, and so this is a 2-inch Forstner bit, 8 inches deep, to get that hole opened up. And so we'll just get started here. These are carbide tips, and I will say something about these. The carbide tips that come with the Trent Bosch system are these Hunter carbide inserts, and they're cupped, and they're really aggressive and they grab a lot. I found these inserts that also fit into these tools. These come off a power carving system made by MANPA, M-A-N-P-A. You can buy these inserts at Woodcraft, and I found them to work a lot better than the ones that came with the Trent Bosch system. So if you're interested in this and you want to see these inserts, come and see me after, and I can show you the difference between the two inserts. So you do have to you want to tilt that into the cut a little bit so that it will cut, and for the straight tool, you keep this tool rest up fairly close to the piece. And so it's just a matter of whittling away. So you can kind of see I'm just making these curved passes in here. You'll notice this piece of tape, this marks the full depth. So when I get to that tape, I know I'm a ways in the bottom, and a lot of this is about feel. A lot of this is, you're kind of feeling your way in there. One thing that I have learned, and I sometimes have to remind myself, all right, the tool is on the rest, and you're pushing here, so you're lifting the tool off. So I find that if I take my hand and put it underneath, then I cut down on a lot of the bouncing. So we're going to do this for a while until I kind of exhaust the limits of this straight tool, and then we're going to switch over to one of the curved tools. All right, so I'm going to stop and clear some chips.
Got a little check at the top there. Got a little check on the top, the windows.
Yes, yeah, that was it. This is, again, a piece of ash that was out in the wood pile, so it made a good demo piece.
Don, at this point, you're not using the visualizer.
I'm not using it yet. I will with the curve tool, then that we'll be using that. This is just trying to get some material out of there, and we're just,
Are you going all the way down, or are you just clearing the top off right now?
I'll go all the way down with a straight tool.
Yeah, but you're, at each pass, you're going all the way down right now. Or-
No, I'm just kind of going down a little bit at a time. But you can hear this carbide insert. It's cutting pretty smoothly. And again, my experience with the Hunter inserts, this thing would have been grabbing and jumping and complaining and fighting and so as you're feeling your way through there, you know, you got to be kind of careful not to take too big of a bite. You don't want to bury the insert, so you just go a little bit at a time. Again, at this stage of the game, and through the whole thing, actually, it's really a matter of feel. So I'm going to clear some chips again, and we'll take a look inside. Now you can also do this hollow form is end grain. The grain is going this way. I've also done hollow forms the other way, so the grain is going as you would be doing a bowl, for example. And so we can take a look in there, and I don't know if your camera can see in there, Claude, but this is what's been done so far.
Don, what's the limit to your depth? How deep?
So with this tool, this is the 3/4 inch tool, probably 10 to 12 inches, but I have some 1-inch tools that you can go deeper. We'll be going 8 inches today, but. And this is available, I got mine from Bill Emerson, but you can also get these on Amazon.
Bill gives them away.
Yeah. Bill's price is better than Amazon, I will say that.
Here's one that's available at craft supplies, so a little smaller of a light. Kind of fits in your pocket, so depending on what you want to do. Another option?
See, I mean, my habit is to go on top of the handle, but it works better if you go underneath. And you don't have to put a lot of pressure on it, but just the fact that you're operating it from underneath helps the bouncing. So what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of nibbling away as I go. These little curve cuts. You can hear it now. We're getting a little deeper. And it seems like it wants to go a little bit faster. And it's good to be careful pulling that tool in and out so you don't grab somewhere where you don't intend to.
Now, I have one of these, and the articulating arm is a different color, and I forget what this black is meant to do.
So, well, the black is just a black oxide to prevent rust.
It prevents rust, yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of feel my way and figure out where I left off. So, almost down to the bottom. So I'm on the bottom now. I'm going to take a cut across the bottom a little bit. All right, so that's about all I'm going to do with a straight tool. So now we will switch over.
How important is it to get it on your tool cutting edge on center? And how do you know, how do you adjust it so it's on center?
Good question. So what I use before I put the chuck on, and I know not everyone has one of these, but this is a dead center. It's a number 2 taper. And so I put this in the headstock and I adjust the height of this setup, this rest. I adjust it so that it's dead even with this point. And
Cutting edge, the tool.
the cutting edge of the tool, yes.
And how important is it when you're hauling?
For this system is very important. These carbide inserts want to cut right on center. And then when you get down to the bottom, obviously if you want to take a cut across the bottom, you don't want to leave a dimple. It's got to be on center.
Now, I noticed that you're able to rotate your tool up
Yes.
and down a little bit.
Yep.
What does that do to staying on or around center?
So the smaller diameter you have here, you got to rotate the tool towards you a little bit so that it'll cut, because otherwise it'll just rub on the heel. And so this rotation becomes critical just for the cutting action. And so this is actually I should show this. This is the medium curve tool. And we should be able to get this done with this tool, but if I have difficulties getting up inside in this area, then we do have this tool with some extra curvature. So it's a little counterintuitive when you get to the curve tool. So I'm going to rotate it towards me a little bit so that it'll cut. But I'm also going to pull the tool rest away a little bit from the tool so that we get the tool rest under this part of the tool. And then as I get deep enough, we'll push the tool rest back closer to the piece.
So how do those get sharpened?
The carbide ones, you can just loosen them and rotate them. And then after you've rotated them, 5 or 6 times, then you just replace them.
Steady rest. Would you ever do this without the steady rest?
So you have this small neck down here, I wouldn't be excited about doing it without a steady rest. Well, actually, it would probably get very exciting to do it without a steady rest, but it would be bouncing, this piece would be bouncing around a lot. You'd be pivoting on this small neck. It would be, I think it would be unpleasant. So I bought this when I had my Powermatic, and this fit the Powermatic. And when I sold the Powermatic and went to the Robust, I ended up having to make this, because the Powermatic is a 20-inch lathe. The Robust is a 25-inch lathe, so I ended up making this aluminum riser to fit this steady rest on the Powermatic. Now, Robust also makes a steady rest, but it's made out of a piece of rolled right angle. And so you'll see when we're using this that this doesn't block too much of the camera. The Robust steady rest blocks a lot more of the camera, so you've got a wide space here where you're kind of blind. So I'm gonna move my tool rest back a little bit, and that wasn't what I wanted to do. Wrong handle.
Last thing.
Well, I'll take an educated guess. So we're going to pull this back, probably about there. And so that gives me support here. And again, once we get in a little bit deeper, we'll move it back in close.
Hey, Don, if you had a little metal ruler and you were to set the ruler on the outside of the piece, so that way your cutter could touch there, if the piece is up against the ruler, up against the piece, it'll show if you're high or low.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, I know this is,
Genius thing.
I know this is a 2-inch hole, so as long as I'm 1 inch below the center, so I don't believe I have a scale.
If you wanted to check center on something that feels like that, that's a way to do it.
So it is because I have it tilted down a little bit. And so that's why we have to move this rest back so the support is here. So if I got a 2-inch hole, I should be at 1 inch. And it's pretty darn close actually for a guess. And so we're, within a 1/16 of an inch. Probably could go up a little bit. So for this part, this is where it gets a little more interesting and you'll see the value of the visualizer. So Mr. Bosch gives you this little card that you center on your tool. And then now on the screen, and I'll draw the line. I like to draw the outline of the tool, but you draw it. This is a dry erase marker. So we draw the outline of the tool. Now, I'm going to shoot for 3/8 wall thickness. So this would be, where am I? 3/8 is right there, I guess. This thing floats around a little bit.
Which I moved for you.
Thank you.
No charge.
Yep. Okay, so we're going to go to this 3/8 line. And we're going to draw that on the screen. What's on the screen is bigger than what's reality, so if you're a little bit wiggly on the line, it's fine. Now, you'll see the true value of the visualizer. So you can see as we go into this piece of wood, now you can see this line, and this outer line is going to, when we hollow this out, you're going to see this outer line will follow the outer contour of the hollow form. But this is a pretty accurate representation of where your tool is inside the hollow form.
So it shows the tip of the tool, and that outside line is your wall. So you bring that outside line all the way to the wall, because your thickness.
And so, different people have different opinions. The laser system is nice, and with all due respect to Josh, my only complaint about the laser system is you just have one point. Versus this, all right, I have this curve, so depending on on what the curvature is inside the bowl, I'm still able to track an accurate wall thickness.
Excellent.
If I explained that well.
I want to add something that, when you're doing that, at some point in time, you want to double check, make sure it's still there.
Oh, yeah, because the
If it
vibration,
vibrates out, you're cutting, you know,
the vibration will move
you
it.
know how I know that.
The vibration will move it, so you gotta check where you're at, especially when you start getting close to the edge. You don't want to be off an awful lot.
I want to mention one other thing, with the curved tools, okay, the steady rest, the support should be past the curve. Okay, the intent is that your cutter is in line with the shaft. When you start going on that curve with the steady rest, you're adding undue torque and stuff. So just a statement with curved tools for your optimum, you know, non-torque situation, not rotating your freaking shoulder out. You want to be in line with the cutter.
The other thing I always do, even with the laser visualizer, get calipers, check it manually too, just, you know, again, because it's going to move. The more you can check your wall thickness, I don't think you can check it too much, to be honest.
Yeah.
with you, so.
Don, did you bring in calipers?
Yep.
Okay, good.
So an easy way to explain it is you want your tool rests on the straight part of the shaft.
Right, and the other thing, and most of the hollowing systems will follow this, but not all of them. But if you follow the straight shaft down, it lines up with this insert, and so that minimizes the torque that you see on the tool, or that the tool sees. And so it's generally cutting on. Guess I'm not explaining this well, but the edge of this insert is kind of lined up with the center of the tool shaft, so that rotational torque from the cutting force doesn't get transmitted too much back into the tool.
Have you ever used the tool that the cutting head is off center? Like that?
So yeah, I mean you have those manual tools where it's offset. You got to hold on to them.
And there's a Mylar or something covering on the screen, right?
Yeah. So just a little spritz of water and a cloth rag, and you just wipe it off and make new lines.
You had to carve it down. Didn't you have to carve the following system?
Yes.
Why'd you move off?
For a number of reasons. Number one, the rotational torque of that thing, because it doesn't have this offset, it isn't lined up. It has this roller system that it makes it difficult to use, and it's really just one straight tool. It was limited compared to what this is.
So you're delighted with this?
Yeah, it's worked out really well.
So Don, one more question. When you talked about the vibration loosening something there, which part are you talking about? Where the spool's fastened?
So vibration will loosen everything here. So the camera alignment to the tool and these lines, the set screws that hold the tool in the handle, you just
Oh, okay.
it'll all get a little loose. Okay, so the steps here, I'll start hollowing here, I'll get it close, and I'll just keep working my way in. Trent has these steps, so he does different sections at a time. I didn't find that useful, so.
Well, don't you think it's important to keep the stability and the solidness of the bowl at the base, work the edges?
Exactly,
with it?
and that's why I do it this way.
Yeah, another thing I like to do, space on the outside, because all those chips, you can see how much he's cleaning them. The more space you can get in there, the less cleaning out of the chips you have to do. And the chips can cause a catch if they build up. That's why you want to constantly clear them out. So usually, same thing. I try to clear as much space on the top, opens it up, and then, work down.
I don't know why that screen goes a little wacky, but so you can see my tool, that outer line is kind of lined up with the outside. So I'm just going to start nibbling right here. You kind of have to keep track of two things. You have to keep track of your tool, whether or not it's going to rub on the backside, and you keep track of the screen and where you're at. I do find it impressive with this system that we're doing all this cutting, you know, and it's bouncing a little bit, but it's really cutting rather smooth. Okay, we're going to stop and clean out some chips. And we'll take a look inside so we can see what we're doing. You can see that this area in here is where I've been working. Can you see it all right?
Yeah.
So when I'm going back up the wall, so we'll finish this cut, and I'm just letting the tool ride back up that wall, so I kind of know where it is, and then I'll get to the top of the wall, we'll grin a little bit, and take another pass down. So I'm almost to the point where I can move that tool rest in, but I want to go work more of this inside wall out here to its finished size. So we're going to double check, right? Our lines are still, our tool is still where we think it is according to the lines. I'm going to leave a little bit of material on it because I have a scraper that I can go in there with and take some of the tool marks out with. I'm on that back wall again, I can feel it. Chips are starting to build up. So I'm going to stop, clear some chips, and move my tool rest a little closer.
I'm reading ahead a little bit. How far do you actually sand the inside? How far?
So technically, the people that review hollow forms, they want to sand it as far in as you can reach. And we'll get to that in a little bit.
Okay.
But I do have a negative brake scraper that you can go in there and take some of these ridges out with.
Okay.
So visually, it'll look better. But again, as far as you can reach, should be sanded. So I got one little ridge in here I want to take before I...
Does it make a difference whether you use a push cut or a pull cut to level off that inside?
That's all
Just
preference, but my experience has been that the pull cut doesn't bounce as much. That's just me. Somebody else may give you a different answer. I don't know, but my experience has been...
Is end grain or cross grain?
Not really. I brought the end grain one because it's easy to clear the chips out, and it tends to not go out around and start whipping around from when I turned it yesterday to setting it up here today. So, you know, a side grain one will just go oval, and I would have had to recut it probably before. This one's running out a little bit, but not too bad.
I'll state that the pull cut, for me, definitely have a lot more finesse,
Yeah.
without question. And much easier to get a much smoother finish.
Yep.
That's just, you know,
And
it doesn't make a difference, but for me,
that's been
the
my,
pulling aspect is so much simpler.
that's been my experience as well.
I have found too, sometimes when you're trying to get those little ridges and smooth it, and going back and forth, when you do go back, it could skate and pull. So that's, you just gotta wanna be careful if you're doing that.
So there was a ridge in there that I felt. So let's see if we can find that. I think that was it there. Yeah, that was it. So again, I'm going to move the tool rest in a little bit closer. And I did the right handle this time. So I'm feeling my way along to find the cliff that I left from the previous cut, so right about there. So we'll start again. You can see with this steady rest of this, the beam, the bar doesn't get in the way all that much. So again, I'm just taking these nibbling cuts, going down the vessel. So I'm getting some drag on this tool rest, so we'll clean out some chips, and I'm going to put a little silicone spray on that. This is just a little, what is this, DuPont silicone spray. So we're on the bottom now, as you can see. I'm just kind of doing a drag cut along the inside to try to get some of the ridges out, leaving a little bit of extra stock. So we can now see pretty much all the way to the bottom in there. And this was mainly for this demonstration. There's a lot of checks on the top of this that
It just gives it character.
Yeah.
So there is another tool that comes with this, or is available with the Trent Bosch system. is this negative edge scraper. And so, obviously it's much bigger around. We can go in and we can clean up some of those ridges with this.
And this is a 3/4 inch bar, and they make a 1 inch bar.
Yes. The 1 inch bar is stepped down so that it fits the 3/4 inch. So that just goes through enough, you put the handle on it, and then you've got the stiffness of the 1 inch bar. And I guess the other thing that's worth mentioning, I don't use this, but these holes in the top of this rest, you can put that pin in, and so you can lever off it a little bit. But I don't use it. I haven't found the need to use it, and I'm a little nervous about using it, that I would get too aggressive and things would get ugly in there. So I'm going to move the tool rest back out, and we'll start so that this tool is supported. And now we're going to make new lines on the screen. So we will, a little bit of water, wipe the old lines off. Back to our little card here. So obviously this tool is a little bit bigger around. So again, I don't know if you have to do this, but I like the two lines so that I know kind of where the tool is. And then we're going to go to the 3/8 again, so 1, 2, 3. So and then, I mean, we're not going to take a lot with this tool, so I'm just going to get some of those ridges out. As I mentioned earlier, with the laser system, we're cutting here. If you have the laser system, your laser would probably be more on the point of the tool. And so that, in my mind, that's the advantage of this visualizer, is you know where you're cutting on the tool. I think we're good. You can see these cracks opened up a little bit.
Sure did.
Opened up a lot, but that's not part of the demo.
No.
What we paid for.
You get what you pay for, yeah. I don't know if you can see that or not on the camera, but that's pretty clean.
So we can just take it off the chuck now and hand it around.
Yeah.
I will do a little sanding here because there's a, I don't like putting my fingers in there with sandpaper. Josh shared the trick that he uses with a pair of forceps, so I do have a pair, so we can share that little trick. But give me a minute to take this down. I mean, I'm sure there's a number of different ways to do it. I'm just trying to discourage you from going in there with your fingers and doing it. So this is just a pair of forceps off Amazon for $7 or $8. Piece of pipe insulation, piece of sandpaper, and again, it just keeps your your fingers out of the inside. I would recommend not putting your fingers through the holes. Hold it on the outside. This is just 180 grit paper, but it'll get you in there ways. But I like my fingers, I want to keep them.
Cracked open up a little more.
Yeah, there's a piece that came out.
Yep.
All right, that's pretty much all I have to show you. I'll take this off, hand it around. You guys can all look inside and see what we did.
So these are the hand tools I use. These are Mike Jakovsky's. There's a star screw here, so this will rotate. So you can kind of get more than one tool with these. And ideally, when you're doing the hand tools, I just stick it up under my armpit, put it support, and you're just going to get on center. If you can move your headstock, it's ideal because then you can get under the bed. But you just want more, as much support as you can. If you're going by hand, obviously, as you saw, even with that, it's going to jump a little bit. So, and I'll pass these around if you guys want to look at them. All right, so this is obviously not set up for this lathe, but the backrest is going to be set up so this is level. And then you'll tweak it a little bit so that same thing, the cutter head is on the center. I just put in my drive center when I did it just to get the initial setup. And then from there, you're pretty much good.
What system is this?
So this is the Lyle Jameson system. One Way has a system that's similar, a little bit bigger, but operates the same way. With this system, when you order it, there's 3 different packages. I got I think I Want It All package. And with that, you get the basic system, the backrest, you get the carbide cutter, you get 2 cutter heads, so these all swivel. And then you also get the jumbo bar, which is 1 inch. So as you're getting deeper, you can just pull that out and adjust it. The different packages will have no carbide cutter and just the steel cutter and no jumbo bar. So for these, you have the laser. I don't know if you can, that's adjustable. And you'll see it come off the piece, and that's how you're gonna know once you're at the edge.
Adjusted to your cutter.
Yeah, so like the Trent Bosch system, you get a little card. So the standard green line that comes with it is 1/8. I like a little thicker walls, so I have a few different dimensions on here. So when I set it up, you can also use a ruler as well. I don't want to blind anybody. So the cutter head, as I said, swivels, so you can get more than just a straight cutter. So as you want, you can get a deeper into the curve, and then you have the other swivel cutter that's got the bent. And this actually will come out and go into the bar this way, so you can get an even bigger curve. So you're basically getting the 3 cutter tools, straight, curved, and then more curved with the one system. So if this is how you have your cutter head set up, and you're going to be cutting on this edge, you'll line up the card and just rotate the laser to get to however wall thickness you want, and then just tighten this down. So now you know when you're cutting on this edge in this direction, once the laser comes off the side of the wall, you're at your dimensions. So, let's see. Yeah, so it's going to be over here. So if you're cutting on this edge, as you come across, you're gonna notice that the laser elongates. And once it elongates or falls off, that's how you know you're at your wall thickness that you have set on that edge. And then you would just do the same, everything else is the same. Follow the lines as you do this part. You know, as Don said, the laser is gonna be set up so you're coming this way. If you're cutting on this edge to do here, so you would do this part. Once you get that right, adjust your cutter, adjust the laser to do the next section, and you'll continue on throughout. So I went with this because it was a little cheaper, and it gives you all the same pieces. If you already have some of the hand tools, because you can buy those cutters that hook up to the Trent Bosch, if you have a handle, if you have the hand tools, then you've already expended the money, then you can get the stabilizer, and you're not having to buy the whole kit at once. So if you wanted to try hollowing, do smaller pieces, get the hand tools, and then you could slowly progress, so you don't have to go with the full setup right from the beginning. You can do it in steps. So for like the Lyle Jameson, this kit was, what did I say, $650, $630. But like the Trent Bosch system, same thing, it was what, $800, $900 for the 3 tools, the stabilizer, the laser. But if you wanted to try just hollowing, you can get the hand tools, because you can buy just his tools without the stabilizer, get a handle. And then if you wanted to, you like it, you want to go bigger pieces, then you could get the stabilizer afterwards. So you can kind of do it in stages if you wanted to. And those hand tools that I passed around without the handle, those were $138, $140 at Craft Supplies.
Each one?
Each one. Yeah. I think one was like $138, one was $128. I think the straight was a little cheaper. And then you buy the handle, but yeah, so you can kind of do it in stages if you want to try. You can do smaller pieces if you like it. Then you want to go bigger pieces, and then you can get even bigger systems. I mean, I've seen homemade ones where the bars are this long, 2 inches thick. I mean, they're doing some crazy pieces, so.
Have you ever found that you're up against the extreme of the range of that stabilizer?
Yeah, so I found a few issues with this one. I was trying to do a smaller opening, and with the curved tool, when I was trying to get in the hole because of the angle, I would hit over here and I couldn't get it in or where I was, so I had to take it out, and I was kind of finagling it that way. So depending on the size opening you want, hitting it this way I ran into, but those are on wider pieces more so than deeper, so you can get it.
The same problem I had when I copied the Lyle Jameson
Yeah.
system onto that angle iron setup I have over there. That's why I went to the big arch,
Yeah.
because it was limiting.
So the one thing I found is I'll just rotate it. So I'll just loosen this and I'll kind of angle it to do that section, and I'll put it back. I've also hit my wall because of where my light is. So again, I had to adjust that. The other big thing on these, if you get one of these, they come with the clip. Make sure you just put it in there, because the last thing you want to do is go too far and it slips out. So.
That voice experience?
No, I haven't had, knock on wood, I haven't had any catastrophic issues with this on the lathe yet. So hopefully it stays that way.
And you do a lot of acrylic, so you treat it the same as you would with wood.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just taking smaller cuts, I'm going slower. I use the carbide. I was just talking about this. So I bought some of the Mampo ones. That acrylic piece on the table, I had rotated my cutter because I noticed it was getting a little dull and it was really grabbing. So I was like, let me try the Mampo ones. And to me, they felt the same. Now, I don't know if it was just because of the epoxy was sitting for 30 days, so it was definitely fully cured. But I noticed about the same. But again, with epoxy, take smaller cuts, slower feed rate. But I treat it the same. It's just, again, you're cutting it a little slower. But other than that, everything else for me is no different on that. And then I haven't used the steel cutter that this comes with. I just brought it so you can kind of see an example.
But I've always used the carbide, so.
Josh, when you're turning epoxy, have you ever got it too hot? Get smudging?
No.
You'll find that the cutter gets hot.
Oh, I mean, the cutter gets hot where it's burning my hand, and then I have to rotate it and stuff. Or if I'm using a hand tool, but
Will it melt the epoxy?
no, I don't notice that. It's more just the heat transfer onto the tool for the hand tools, and then and that's because it's just not cutting, or I'm taking too big of a cut, more so than anything else. But that's all I got.